McMullen McDonald here with you on Birds 365. Appreciate you streaming on in. Yeah, go ahead and hit that like button. Give your boys a little love. We could use the help. Thank you for streaming in, and while you're at it, go ahead. Tell us you actually think the show's okay. Johnny Mac, this week is the owners' meetings out in Arizona. Doesn't look like there's going to be a whole heck of a lot of rule changes implemented. The competition committee didn't come up with anything solid that they're recommending that the owners vote on. So it doesn't look like there's going to be much as far as rule changes go. And that's one of the things that happens with this meeting most years, including no tush push evaluation. They talked about it in the competition committee, and they didn't think they could have enough votes to be able to get it through. So it's going to be here, and it's going to be something the Eagles are going to rely on. I was reading Peter King this morning in his Monday morning quarterback column today, and he is harping on the idea that some quarterbacks are going to get hurt. And this NFL is deciding to be reactive rather than proactive, getting ahead of it. And they'll wait till some quarterback goes down and gets hurt, and they'll go, oh, well, we can't have that. We need to reevaluate this. Well, if Peter King is right, who's the quarterback most likely to get hurt running the tush push other than Jalen Hurts, who they do it more here in Philadelphia than basically the rest of the league combined?
I don't think it's about injury as much as getting the votes. If they know if they have the votes, and if they don't have the votes, they're not going to put it up for a vote because they, then it hurts further cases. So they'll wait until they feel it's gotten to a point to where they can get the votes. And I think it has more to do with that. Now, if you have a high profile injury, I forget who got injured on a sneak. You brought it up to me.
Mahomes.
I think if that happens, it becomes easier. And that's if they want to pass it. Because I mentioned on the show last week, I had a couple people saying to me, well, they want offense. I mean, less punts, the better, blah, blah, blah. You keep the offense on the field, more points, makes sense. So, maybe they don't want to get rid of it. I had brought up the aesthetic nature of the play because to me, it's a really ugly play. Mm-hmm. But then again, so is a bubble play. Yeah, so is a bubble screen. I mean, that's one of the ugliest plays in football, unless your team hits one.
You mean that?
Oh, God.
A bubble screen is compared to a tush push?
If I see another bubble screen, I say it all the time, Jody, just tear my eyes out. I can't stand it. It's awful. It's terrible. It's that's another thing with the officials versus college and pros. You can block at this point. You can't block at this point. It's so inconsistent. It's so unfair. It's horrible looking until it hits. For years, that first season with the Eagles, everybody was saying the same thing I was. No more bubble screens. It didn't work. They never worked. They were never successful. And they're ugly, ugly plays when it doesn't work. When you get Zach Pascal out there blocking like he's an offensive lineman, you click one, all of a sudden, yeah, that's a great play. It's an ugly play. Just watch. You watch a lot of college football. That's all they do, Jody. It's ugly.
I understand. You and I disagree. I don't think it's an ugly play. I think when it doesn't work, it's an ugly play. You know what else doesn't look good? When a quarterback gets sacked. That's an ugly play for the offense. And when a guy is open behind the defense and quarterback overthrows him by 5 yards, it's an ugly play. Ugly is oftentimes defined by the success of the play. And you're right.
Beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
In Philadelphia, but I think that has more to do with the guy they're throwing the bubble screen to. Somehow bubble screens work for the San Francisco 49ers. Why is that, John?
Well, you got to have the right players. Yeah,
they got this guy named Deebo Samuel.
Yeah.
Bubble screens look real pretty with him. They're not ugly. It's not the play itself. It's the person who's out there trying to perform the play.
Even somebody as talented as Deebo, and you're right. I mean, obviously, if you have a player, most of them still over 50% don't work. I mean, it's an ugly. I get it. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, but overall, I think we're both old school guys. Look, from just a pure aesthetic standpoint, I'm not talking about athletics. I'm not talking the gifted nature of the players. Just from a pure aesthetic standpoint, I think you would agree with me. 1980s football was a more beautiful game than the game played today. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you'll disagree with me.
Yeah, no, I'm not
I
necessarily going there.
I think it's such an it's such a uglier game than it once was. You know, the intricacies of the Bill Walsh offense versus, tempo, bubble screen, zone read, RPO. It's just not as exciting. And then I always go back to, I always tell that the James Franklin game. It was Penn State, Ohio State. Trace McSorley was there. It was like a 4th and 5. They ran an RPO, and everybody's losing their minds. And I got into it with a bunch of college football people at the time, and they're like, "Well, you got to run this, you got to run." I'm like, "You can't practice RPO, zone read, and then expect them to pull Bill Walsh out of his ass at the biggest moment
That's
that they
fair.
don't practice. It doesn't make any sense." And again, go watch those Bill Walsh teams and tell me that's not a prettier brand of football. That's all I'm saying. That is a prettier brand
Yeah,
of
but
football.
there were 31 other teams in the NFL that weren't Bill Walsh.
Well, we're always talking about highest level. We'll
He
talk
was
about the
the
highest
best
level.
of the
All
best.
right. Chiefs and Eagles, the highest level.
Well, who runs a prettier offense, Bill Walsh or Andy Reid? We'll pick whichever is 49ers Super Bowl offense or the Kansas City Chiefs offense the last several years.
I would say Bill Walsh, because Andy has innovated to be successful in today's era of football. It's not a criticism of Andy. Andy's trying to win. Andy's trying to win games. The game has been, and by the way, it's baseball as well, basketball as well. The game has evolved into a math problem. So now it's all about, we got one more guy in the box plus one in the running game. So take advantage of that, which makes sense. I'm not criticizing. You found an advantage. You can go all the way back to Appalachian State and Michigan, Jody. You don't have as much talent, so you try to game the system. It became a math problem. It became a math problem in baseball. It became a math problem in basketball. The aesthetics aren't there when you're trying to solve a math problem. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, you and I don't agree on this. I think that, and it goes back to an argument I've had forever about it. It's more basketball based, but the way we're discussing here in football, I see how similar it is. People love to tell you that you must decide on which of two eras is better. That the 80s basketball with the Knicks and Jerry West and Wilt Chamberlain, and the fact that they played a different brand of basketball as compared to today, where everything is threes and or athletic over the rim or whatever. Why can't you like both? Why can't you say basketball was great 40, 50 years ago? Basketball is great today. People make you choose side. No, it's got to be one or the other. Either you have to be an old school fan and this new game stinks and there's no team cohesion, or this new game is more athletic and those old men couldn't play in today's game. People feel the need that you have to choose one of the two.
Well, that's not me.
Appreciate both.
I'm not telling people to choose. They can choose for themselves. I said beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Now, I'll be the first to tell you the athletes are much better today. They're much more gifted today. But I do think the invasion of analytics. Remember, there are two different things at play here. If you're a team, if you're an organization, your job should only be to win. And if you find a way to win, you pound on that way to win. That's your job. If you're a coach, that's your job. Take advantage of the math problem. That's your job. It's the league's job. And we talked about this with whether it's the Tush push or whether it's the Bill Belichick formational pushes. The league has a different job. The league, and it doesn't matter as much with the NFL. It probably matters more with Major League Baseball, to a certain degree, the NBA, certainly the NHL. their job is to make the game enticing for the fans and the television viewers who are going to get. So their job is a little bit different. I'm sure there are people who think today's game is prettier than the 1980s, whatever, 1990s game. I'm sure there are people who think that, and they have the right, like what you like. But in my opinion, I would rather gouge my eyes out to see another bubble screen, and I got to see them 15 times a week at every game of the NFL. To me, it's no fun, but that's me. That's a personal.
I got no issues with bubble screens when they're well executed. If you got a talented wide receiver on the outside and a good run offense, bubble screen could be a great play. I got zero problems with it, unless, of course, it's being thrown at Jalen Reagor. Then shame on the Philadelphia Eagles for drawing that one up.
You're saying when it works. Yeah, when it works, it's great. But the vast majority of them are Jalen Reagor bubble screens, not Deebo Samuel bubble screens. And this is pervasive, not only in Philadelphia, everywhere in the NFL, everywhere in college football. This is pervasive. And you see 5, sometimes at the college level, you might see 10 a game because they get very redundant. The games last so long.
Here's where I will agree with you. That I think one of the things that factors into as many teams using it and calling it as often as they do over the course of a weekend in the NFL, everybody playing, how many bubble screens are run? The answer is probably too many. It's, again, driven by analytics. It's a safe pass. You're going to complete the pass. Though, well, completion percentage is that important, so let's make a play where we can upgrade the chances are it's going to be a complete pass. Yeah, but the guy gets tackled behind the line. Yeah, but it was a complete pass.
It's a math problem. That's what I said. That
doesn't make any sense.
And some people love math. Some people enjoy it. They've made it their lives. Most people didn't have fun in math class. And when you turn sports into a math problem, most people aren't on board with that.
Right. But there are some people that are really good at math and they're football coaches and they figure out how to make the math work for them. Others can't do the math. Think they can do the math. Understand math is important, but at the bottom line is at the end of the day, you come
brought up
the
basketball.
Wrong number. That's a bad decision.
You brought up basketball. To me, the most I was a Sixers fan growing up. I now could care less about that team. But growing up, I was a huge Sixers fan. The most exciting time in basketball for me, I can picture it. Mo Cheeks leading the break. The wings were Julius Erving and Bobby Jones. And something was coming crashing down. It was either a Doc dunk or Bobby Jones dunk. Most exciting play in basketball. Today, they got wings who veer to the three-point line. Is that exciting if it goes in? Yeah. It ain't Julius Erving rocking the baby, cradling over Michael Cooper. I'll tell you that. So I don't see how are the athletes better? There are much more Julius Ervings today than there were then.
Understood.
No question about it. But that play, that particular play, and you know the one I'm talking about, where you can go to Mark Landisberger and Magic Johnson, who speaks with such awe and reverence of that particular play. That stuff is more exciting to me. I think if people got to see it, they would find it more exting.
Yeah, but Seth Curry is doing things that nobody's ever done before. And
the
Doc did for his. We'll see if there's another Steph Curry to come. There was another Doc. Doc was a forerunner. Doc did things that nobody had ever done. And then we found out, okay, there are other guys who can do it other than Dr. J. We'll find out if there's anyone else who can do what Seth Curry does, because no one has ever done it before. He is that same kind of cutting edge run player with just his unbelievable ability to shoot. All right, we've gotten off on a basketball tangent. We're going to bring it back to football with Jeff Mosher. He's coming up next. Mr. InsideTheEagles.com and Inside the Eagles podcast. Jeff Mosher joins us here on Birds 365.